You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.
What is going on, Pirate Nation and college football fans? It is Wednesday night, and it is time to talk college football here with Sonny and Semenza. A lot of tremendous games this week to dive into. But before we do that, let me welcome in East Carolina football letter winners, Jay Sonnhalter and Matt Semenza. Gentlemen, how are we?
Doing great, guys. Happy to be here with you as always, and looking forward to catching up tonight. A lot of good games this week. It's a little different having East Carolina on the bye week, a little less stressful. This week I think it came at a good time for us, but definitely a good slate of games.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the SEC where there's monster games this weekend. I'm going to be sad when it's not football season, guys.
Yeah, seriously, right? That's always a sad day when college football ends, but
devastation.
Luckily, we have another month or so, right?
Exactly. That's a great point, Jay. I mean, it's hard to believe that it's already week 10, here the first weekend of November. And, before we dive into week 10, let's take a look back at week 9. A week ago.
Let's not take a look back, Bubba.
Yeah.
Let's not take a look back.
Yeah. And,
move forward.
Probably one of the funniest things from last week's picks was I went back and I was listening to some of last week's show earlier today, just when I was making sure I had the picks correct as far as the records and what everyone said, but the two of you as well as Kyle, as far as Oklahoma State and K-State. Matt said he said I would bet my house, and I was like, man, I'm glad he didn't do that, because then K-State beat him 48-0.
I mean, that to me is the craziest thing ever. Like, when was the last time Oklahoma State was shut out in a game and then lose 48-0? And I was so confident about that pick. Jay, it was so funny because I said, I'll bet my house that Oklahoma State wins. And Jay said, well, Matt, you sound so confident. I'm just going to roll with you. And I led you down a bad path there. So, I'm pretty embarrassed about that one.
We'll regroup. Now, we're both tied for the year, 25-24-1, right, Bubba?
Correct. 25-24-1 for both of you guys. And, a week ago, right around 500, and Jay was 4-5-1, and Matt was 5-4-1. And
what was Kyle?
I didn't add it up since we're not keeping his picks. I will go back just out of curiosity and look. I think he was right in the same ballpark, because there were some that he went with one of you, and then the other games he would go the other way. So I think he was probably right there in the middle, probably about 5 wins as well. But I'll go back to see for sure.
All right. Well, I feel a late season surge coming on, Matty. So
because I do know that he picked I want to say he picked an upset in that West Virginia TCU game, and obviously TCU covered late. West Virginia did what Kyle expected them to do and took TCU down to the wire, but TCU was able to throw a touchdown pass there about the last minute and a half. They had a 4th-and-1 play, and threw I think it was a fade route, and were able to put that one away in Morgantown.
Well, the funny thing about this record, the fact that we have the same record, Jay, is that we got here in a very different way. Like, it's not like we're making the same picks every week. We actually pick different games or different teams quite a bit. So it is kind of funny we have the same record,
Yeah. Well, this is our time to shine, Bubba. Mark it down here. We're gonna start. We're gonna go to Vegas and make some money.
Before we progress to week 10, besides that debacle for Oklahoma State in Manhattan, what were some of the other major takeaways from week 9 for you guys?
Well, what was the other big blowout game there that was the shocker, guys?
Well, Tennessee destroyed Kentucky, which I was surprised that was as big of a blowout as that was. that was pretty crazy. And then there was the Ohio State, there's the Michigan State game as well, which was a huge blowout.
Another one. Let's see. You definitely that Kentucky-Tennessee game. I know Kyle. When you talk about Kyle's picks, Jay, and Kyle took UK, and I think they were getting 12 or 13 points, and then Tennessee ends up winning that ball game 44-6. So,
there was a Georgia-Florida game as well, so there's some blowouts.
Yeah, you had that one, but that was one of the ones you guys got right because the Gators were getting 23 or 24 and ended up losing 42-20. So that was a slight cover.
Yeah, I think the other game that was interesting, guys, was that Cincinnati UCF game. That was a huge game in the American. And, I got to give credit to UCF because, they had 2 turnovers in the red zone when they were about to score. They had their starting quarterback knocked out, and they still found a way to win that game against Cincinnati. So that's a nice bounce back win for that program.
Yeah, it really was, and I know that was one you felt pretty strongly about UC, and you thought the Bearcats would probably win by a couple touchdowns. I think Jay had taken UCF in what was basically a pick 'em. The Knights were a 1-point favorite, and I know the game that you're trying that's escaping us. I was going back and glancing at last week's slate as far as some of the surprises. And let's see here. You had Ohio State defeating Penn State. You guys had taken Penn State in the points, which was a solid pick. Another one I know that we were all wrong on was Syracuse and Notre Dame. Notre Dame went to the Dome and won 41-24. Syracuse coming off that loss at Clemson, and they really struggled. And then this is the one that you may have been thinking of, Matt, and that's the debacle for Wake Forest up in Louisville.
Exactly.
The Deacs actually led that game at halftime 14-13, and then Louisville outscored them 35-0 in the third quarter when Wake Forest turned it over 6 times. I mean, how often that must have been how crazy those turnovers were, that it was a pick 6 or a scoop and score and stuff left and right, because how odd is it for a team to even have the ball six times in a quarter?
Yeah, that was unbelievable, Jay. I mean, Wake Forest was number 10 in the country, and they go to Louisville. Nobody saw that one coming. Nobody. I mean, I remember we talked about the line was 3. It might have been 3.5 for Wake Forest. And we all kind of talked about, like, hey, that's a little bit surprising. Why is it so low? But for Wake just to get their ass kicked like that, nobody in the country expected that one.
Yeah, they've been rolling. It's going to make it tougher on NC State, though, with them coming in playing bad. I think they're going to come back out Wake Forest's and make sure they don't play like that again this Saturday.
Another game of note from a week ago was what took place down in College Station. Not surprising to me. You had the Rebels 31, the Aggies 28, and I loved what Lane Kiffin said after that ball game when he was asked, hey, coach, do you have a Halloween costume and for Monday night? And he said, I'm going to talk to Jimbo, and maybe he has a Joker costume for me.
That's great. That's great. Jimbo, if he keeps this up, he's going to get run out of town because he's making way too much money and recruited way too many 4 and 5 stars to be losing like this. So, you know how it is, guys. In the SEC, there's a very short leash on coaches.
No doubt. And, as we prepare to dive into this week's games and get to this week's picks, and we'll take a look at 10 of the better games from around the nation. We have Craig Doucette from Virginia chiming in tonight. He said, "What's up, you crazy kids?" He said, I love watching this show because it's like watching a live version of the movie 2 for the Money. Sonnhalter is Al Pacino and Semenza is Matthew McConaughey.
That's a great movie, by the way, too. Really good movie. What's up, Craig?
But first game we'll take a look at this week, guys. This is where you have to start. The initial college football playoff poll came out. Tennessee, number 1. They're traveling down between the hedges to take on number 3 Georgia. Who in a lot of folks' opinions was snubbed. Thought that they should be number 2 ahead of Ohio State, and we'll talk about that later, I'm sure. But number 1 Tennessee at number 3 Georgia. Dogs by 8.
Jay, you want to take it first, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is impossible to bet, right? So that's a high number. I mean, you would think Tennessee's going to cover it, but I just think, when the public goes one way, I go the other. So I'm going to go dogs by more than 8.
Yeah, I hear you, Jay. I'll tell you, I've been bullish on this Tennessee team all year. I think every single week I've picked in their favor. Really like this team. But I think Georgia, when they have their backs up against the wall and when they play in a huge game like this, a huge game at home, I think you're going to get their best punch. And, we were saying last week that Tennessee might be in store for a little bit of a letdown at some point. I don't know if it'll be a letdown, but I do think Georgia will find a way to get this done. And it's a lot of points, 8, but I am going to say Georgia covers the 8 at home. Bubba, what do you think?
I agree with you guys that it will not shock me at all if the Dogs cover that. I'm very interested to see how they match up in the trenches against Georgia, and how that defense holds up. But I do think Georgia will probably win the football game. But I'll take Tennessee on the way they can score. I'll take them plus the 8. If nothing else, just to make things interesting.
No, I hear
you. Moving on, another huge top 10 matchup in the SEC. LSU, they've really steadied the ship after a rough start with that loss to Florida State and then the blowout at home to Tennessee. Been playing pretty good football, especially quarterback Jalen Daniels. So then you have number 6 Alabama traveling for a night game down at Tigers Stadium, and the Crimson Tide are nearly a 2-touchdown favorite, tied by 13.
Well, I'll jump in on this first one. It's not fair that Jay always has to go first, so I'll jump in on this one first. I feel like that's a pretty big spread. LSU is definitely a team that's turned it around here. It's a night game in Baton Rouge. We know how tough it is to play there at night. That crowd's going to be absolutely electric. I don't know if LSU will win, but I do expect them to cover that 13. So I'll go with the Bayou Bengals.
For me, I mean, I think that's really, really high. But again, I would have thought this would have been maybe 6.5 Alabama. I don't know why it's that high, but that tends me to believe Vegas isn't always correct. But I think I'm going to go with Alabama on this to kind of surprise some people and win by more than 2 touchdowns.
All right. I like it, Jay.
Again, it would not surprise me if that happens, but with this game being in Baton Rouge, night game at Tigers Stadium, I think even if it's a backdoor cover, where Bama may be up 3 scores and LSU scores late to slice into the lead, I will take the Tigers in the 13 with the game being in Baton Rouge. So, moving on, sticking within the SEC, actually moving on to the ACC, you have Wake Forest, and we talked about what they endured a week ago or put themselves through up at Louisville with the 8 turnovers in the second half, and they are traveling to take on an NC State team at Carter Finley Stadium. The Deacs are a 4.5-point favorite, and NC State got an excellent relief performance by its freshman quarterback to rally from a 21-3 deficit to Virginia Tech. Who would have thunk that?
Well, I'm going to go with Wake Forest. NC State can't score. They got lucky. They beat Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech is terrible on offense. So I think this is going to be a bounce-back game for Wake Forest, and I think they're going to win by 5 or more.
Jay, you sounded confident on that one. It was no hesitation.
No. I mean, I saw NC State's offense, and they can't score. So I'm surprised Wake Forest happened last week with Louisville, but I just don't think they're going to have that happen again.
I mean, listen, I think I have to agree with like everything you said. I would agree with on this one. Like, I think Wake Forest is going to come out. They're going to be very hungry to get that bad taste out of their mouth from last week. And I agree with you. NC State, without Leary, they're just not the same team. They really, really struggle to score. And, you know, their defense we know is very solid. So I think the defense will keep the game within striking distance, but the inability to score is going to really hurt them. So I'll agree. I'll say Wake goes into Carter Finley and gets it done.
I agree. I think NC State's defense will keep them in it, but I think their inability to score will catch up to them in the end. I mean, I could see Wake winning this. I don't know, 31-23, or that's probably even it may be even a little bit high on the score there, but I think Wake will win this one by 7 to 10 points.
Yeah, and the other thing about that one, guys, is now that they have a little bit of film on the freshman quarterback, because now he played for probably half that game the other night against Virginia Tech. And by the way, Virginia Tech is terrible. That is a terrible football team. Maybe the worst Virginia Tech team I've ever seen. But I think Wake Forest will be able to make adjustments off of that and take care of business.
Earlier, we talked about what K-State did a week ago, that 48-0 win, without their starting quarterback, Adrian Martinez, lighting up Mike Gundy and the Cowboys in Manhattan. This week, another huge ball game in Manhattan as number 24 Texas comes to town, and the Longhorns are a slight 2.5-point favorite.
All right, well, I'll jump in on this one first. It's never easy to get a win in the Little Apple, Manhattan. So, Texas is a weird team. I don't know. Right now, I just love the momentum Kansas State has, with that brutal beatdown of Oklahoma State. I see Longhorns by 2.5. I think Kansas State gets it done money line, gets the win at home against Texas. And it won't be that close. They'll win this game by at least a touchdown.
I'm going to surprise some people, but I just don't think they're going to be able to have two huge wins back to back. I think Texas is going to go in there and win by 3.
All right. Yeah, that is an interesting factor, like you're saying, Jay, coming off such a huge win. You almost wonder, since they beat them 48-0 instead of winning a closer ball game, if it may be a little bit easier for them to move on and prepare for this Texas game. But like Matt mentioned, they're always tough there at Bill Snyder Stadium. I think it's what it's called there. There in Manhattan, the Little Apple. I think I will take K-State.
All right.
And moving on within the, let's see, I think we may have another Big 12 one here. Let's see. Bear with me as I scroll back through our comments. Actually moving on to the AAC. We talked about UCF and the huge win they had over Cincinnati. And the 25th ranked Knights are traveling to the Liberty Bowl, where they'll take on the Memphis Tigers, and they are a 3-point favorite. What do you think about this one, Matt?
Well, I actually feel pretty strongly that Memphis is going to get it done, and I'll tell you why. UCF, I think they struggle a little bit in their secondary. And we saw that up close and personal in Greenville when there were holes all throughout their secondary, and Holt Nailers really picked them apart. Now, I don't know if that was a little bit of a one-off, or if that's who they really are. But conversely, you look at Memphis, and that's what they do really well. They throw the football, and they're really creative on offense. They come out with some really good stuff. A lot of 4 wide receiver sets, 5 wide receiver sets. They incorporate the tight end. So I like Memphis to pull off the shocker at home, Jay, to take the win here.
I'll go with you. I mean, I on this game, I mean, really, you never know what you're going to expect from these teams. I think UCF, I just look at it's hard to win big games back to back. And I think that Cincinnati game was a huge win for UCF. I think Memphis is going to get done and cover.
Nice. We agree. We haven't had many agreements tonight.
We got one.
There you go.
I'll go for the trifecta. I'll go with Memphis as well.
I thought Bubba was going to go the other way, just to dip on us.
To spice it up.
And also within the American, you have number 19 Tulane, who obviously has the inside track at the not only conference championship but the berth in the New Year's Six. They are traveling to Tulsa, and they will be there at Chapman Stadium as a 7.5-point favorite against the Golden Hurricane. So Matt, how do you feel about Willie Fritz Ball Club? Will they be able to go on the road and take care of business against Coach Montgomery and company?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think Tulane's a very disciplined team. Like, obviously they're ranked number 19 in the country, and they might be feeling very confident right now, as they should. But I don't see them as the type of team, guys, that's going to, come into a game like this unprepared or take another team lightly. I think Willie Fritz is a really good coach, as we've talked about many times this year. And Tulsa is a team that, they started off pretty good this season, but they've really not played good football here for about a month. So I'm going to say Tulane goes in there, and I'm going to say they go into that little high school stadium in Oklahoma and win this game by at least 10 or more.
Well, for me, I just think it's tough to always blow teams out, and I wouldn't be surprised if Tulsa does make this a close game, but I don't think Tulsa plays enough defense, and I think Tulane will take care of business, and I think they'll do it on the road by 8 or more.
All right. And I agree. I don't think it'll be a blowout, as Jay was kind of referencing there, but I do think that Tulane will take care of business and probably win this one by a couple touchdowns. Sticking within the American, you have Houston traveling to a Ford Stadium in Dallas to take on SMU Mustangs by 3.
Jay, you can take this one first, buddy. Jay, you there?
Yeah. Hey, guys. Sorry, I just had my phone just shut off. All right, so I'm going to go with SMU on this one. I think the home field advantage is going to be a factor. I think we've seen Houston go back and forth, but I think SMU at home is a different team, and they'll be able to score. I think they'll go ahead and win by 4 or more.
All right. Man, this is the hardest one for me so far. This is a really tough one. It's at SMU. Jay, I'm going to give you a Lee Corso not so fast special, my friend. Not so fast. I think the Cougs are they've been playing some pretty good football here. SMU, we know they can score a lot of points, but they will give up a lot of points too. So I don't know. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say Houston gets it done.
I agree. I was going to – nothing will surprise me in this one, but I was going to take the Cougs as well. SMU certainly has a pretty good football team, but it seems like Houston's playing better each week, and I think the Cougs will take care of business and win a big road game in Dallas. Um, heading north, and this is a game that I thought was going to fall after those other SEC matchups earlier, and that is Arkansas hosting Liberty. The Flames are not ranked in the college football playoff poll, but they are, I believe, 23rd in either the AP or coaches poll. However, Arkansas there at home at Razorback Stadium is a 13.5-point favorite.
All right. Well, I'll say Arkansas, another funny team. I do think Arkansas is going to win the game. I'll keep this one short and sweet, but I think Liberty is a very solid football team. They're going to be very motivated to go into the SEC atmosphere and try to get a W here. So I think Liberty will cover the 13.5, but Arkansas will win.
I think Arkansas is going to win by 14. I think it'll be a 2-touchdown game. I think Liberty's good, but I think Arkansas will road grade them up front, and I think it's going to be tough for them on the road, Liberty. So I'll go with the Razorbacks.
Yeah, I have instant regret, by the way. I have instant regret right now taking Liberty. Sonnhalter, I think you might be right. I'm regretting my pick instantly here.
Yeah, that's where my I think this is a really good line where it's set because I agree with Jay. Like I'm just curious to see how Liberty holds up in the trenches, and you think they were involved in a fairly high-scoring game. The game they lost at Wake Forest, what was it, like it's 37-36 or something crazy like that. So I don't know. I want to take Liberty in the 13.5. What the heck? I'll take the Flames, but I have my doubts as to whether they'll be able to hold up in the trenches.
That's a tough one. That is a very tough game right there, but
we shall see. And then last week's opponent for the Pirates, BYU, they're traveling to the Blue Turf, and this is a game I know we've talked about on our other shows on just saying that we obviously want BYU to finish well and become bowl eligible, and who knows, maybe finish 7-5. They're certainly capable of doing so, and they travel to the Blue Turf as a 7.5-point favorite to a Boise State team that, after losing their first 2 games of the season, has really started to play better football, but at the same time, not the most challenging of schedules.
You could jump in on this one, Jay.
Well, I think on this one, something's going on with BYU. I just think Boise State's going to go ahead and take this at home.
Man, Jay, you keep going the opposite way on me tonight. So I think if BYU has anything left in the tank this season, they need to go out to Boise and play well in this game. And it's funny when you watch BYU, they have some really talented players. I think their offensive line is very good. But they're just not closing games. They're not able to win these games recently. But I do think they're going to go in there and play well. I think this is going to be a really fun game to watch, back and forth. I think BYU will cover the 7.5. I don't know if they'll win this game, but I think they'll find a way to cover the 7.5. So I'll go with the Cougs.
I'll take the Cougars as well. I think that even though they lost a heartbreaker to the Pirates a week ago, I think they, in some ways, perhaps, rediscovered themselves and the way they wanted to play after a disappointing 4-touchdown loss at Liberty. So I think that they're going to go to the Blue Turf with a mission to prove and get it done against the Broncos. Not only will they cover, but I think they may win this football game. And,
it's now or never, right? It's now or never for BYU. So
yeah, if they drop this one, they're in a situation where it's certainly doable. But and they have Stanford, and I'm trying to remember who in their last 2 games. they'd be in a situation where they'd have in Utah Tech, so they'd have to win that game against Stanford and obviously do what they're supposed to do against Utah Tech to get to 6-6 and bowl eligibility.
Yeah, yeah.
But that is the final game for this week. And so guys, maybe the games that are taking place tonight or last night with the Maction, but I think a game that I'm really interested in watching because the Sun Belt race is so up for grabs. A big one tomorrow night down in Conway, and that is the Mountaineers traveling down to Myrtle Beach to take on the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers in what will be a blackout there at Coastal.
That will be a tough game. That'll definitely be a tough game, and it's that's one of those games again. What's the Bubba? What is the line in that one? Do you guys know what the line is?
Give me a moment. I'll look that one up.
Yeah, Jay, what do you think about that?
That's gonna be an interesting game. I mean, Coastal plays well at home. I always tend to lean with them, but you never know.
The apps, like I thought, but wasn't sure. They are a 3-point favorite. Over under 63.5.
That's a tough one. Well, it'll be fun to watch. Certainly I don't have a good feel for who's going to win that one, but I think it'll be a back and forth game for sure.
And it's a situation looking at that SBC race. You have James Madison, who isn't eligible with it being their first season, which is a shame, and I don't agree with that rule. Be it James Madison or any team that moves up, I think if they're good enough to compete, they should be able to do so. But you have Coastal Carolina 4-1, 7-1 overall, and then you have Georgia State at 2-2. James Madison, who isn't eligible, they are 3-2. You have App State 2-2, Georgia Southern 2-2, Old Dominion at 2-2. So this game tomorrow night is absolutely huge because it would put Appalachian where they had the tiebreaker obviously against the Chanticleers, and they have a very tough road ahead because besides going to Coastal tomorrow night, next week they go to Marshall, and then they have Old Dominion at home, and then they go to Georgia Southern. So App State controls its destiny, but it's a very tough road if they're going to win the SBC. Well, not win the SBC, but win their division and play for the SBC.
Yeah, absolutely. So, not to, obviously just to take a quick peek ahead to next week. Jay, I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on Pirates heading into Cincinnati. I think the bye week comes at a good time, guys, for East Carolina. It comes at a great time because this is a team that's pretty nicked up. It's been a long road. Obviously a huge game next week in Cincinnati. Jay, well, what are your thoughts on that? Just in terms of how do you think the Pirates will hold up there?
Oh, I think they're going to come in and play great. I mean, I think that's going to be I think it's going to be an awesome game. And I think that with the confidence East Carolina has, how fresh we should be with the bye week, it's all lining up good for the Pirates. So it's all you can ask for. It's going to be a tough environment, but I think it's going to be an outstanding game.
Yeah, I think that bye week it's huge. This team really needs it badly. And, you always want it to be a little earlier in the season, but now that we're at this stage, coming off of a 3 wins in a row here, I think it really comes at a good time. So you get this team healthy, and then you go into Cincinnati, hopefully at, it's never quite full strength this time of year, but you have all your weapons intact to try to go out there and get a win. And I think we match up pretty well with them guys. I don't think this is clearly not the Cincinnati of last year. Still a very good football team. But UCF really, I thought, handled them very well on the line of scrimmage and was able to run the ball really effectively on Cincinnati. So I think I really like our chances to go get that win because, right now, the type of balance we have in the offense and the ability to run the football, I think is going to be huge for us.
I agree. I like the matchup. Certainly a tall task. The Bearcats have not lost at Nippert Stadium since November of 2017. And if they do what they're supposed to do this weekend against Navy, which I think they will, and they'll be coming into that game with a 31-game win streak at home, second to only Clemson in FBS. So, what an awesome opportunity this will be. And I like our chances to go up there and get it done. At the very least, I don't think it'll be a competitive game. But with the way we're clicking right now, I think the biggest thing is, just some of those things that didn't allow us to win that BYU game a little bit sooner and made it come down to a kick. Things that we discussed as far as not controlling what we could control, and obviously you got to give BYU credit, but things like where we lined up off sides and prevented a turnover there at midfield, and things that we had not done the previous week against UCF. We'll need to shore up some of those things, and if we do, I really like our chances. And Pirates will be coming home for Senior Day if they can handle business 7-3, and with a opportunity to who knows, Houston may only have one loss in the league at that point, which would be an even bigger ball game. Obviously, the Pirates just have to handle their business, and then if they do, then we just need Tulane to lose a game, and hopefully we need UCF to lose a game, and hopefully that will happen against Tulane.
Yeah, it's definitely, one game at a time, and one, you have to win out. If you're East Carolina, you have to win out. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, guys. I'm happy to get the bye week, but I'm looking forward to that Cincy game.
And how could you not be just ecstatic about where this program is right now? Forget the near misses early in the season. We're 6-3. It's the best spot we've been in at least 8 years. And, as far as competing for a conference championship, if that does become a reality, that would be the first time that had occurred in 13 years. And who knows, we could lose less than 5 games. And that would be only the second time that's happened this century, with the only other time being in 2013 when we went 10-3. Because, from 2001 to present, even though we've had some very good teams, those back-to-back conference championship teams in 08 and 09 were 9-5. So we have a chance to do something that only one other team has done since 2001.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you, hey, we're in a good spot. When you have a chance to win every game, that's you're in a good spot as a program, and just looking forward to seeing how it pans out for us, guys.
No doubt. So Pirate fans, be sure to call 1-800-ECU or go online to ECUPirates.com and secure your tickets for that Houston game on November 19th. And, you have some excellent deals going on right now in the upper deck. You have tickets available for $15, and in the lower level, you have tickets available for $25. So get out and support the Pirates. And guys, have enjoyed the conversation tonight. Always love talking college football. But for Jay Sonnhalter, Matt Semenza, I'm Bub Rosenbaum. You've been watching and listening to Sonny and Semenza right here on the Sports Objective. Have a great week, everyone. And as always, go Pirates.
You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates. Listen to the show pretty much everywhere podcasts are found. Be sure to follow us on social media at The Sports OBJ on Twitter and TikTok, at The Sports Objective on Instagram. Like and follow our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. As always, we appreciate you listening to the show, and go Pirates!